For the record, I hate the new normal. Not a fan. Hashtag.
50-50.
New abnormal.
In a minute.
I agree with the commission. I don't like the idea of calling it the normal at all.
I was in a meeting the other day. Somebody called it the new way.
The new what?
The new way.
New way. So Gary, is that a virtual background or are you actually near your building?
No, I'm actually standing in front of my building. It's so quiet downtown.
I was going to say I could walk over and stand on the other side of the street and we could virtually distance.
Right, you ready for this? This is the best part. This is the best part. Ready?
Yes. No scooters.
No, it's actually a wedding
That's
photo.
awesome.
Oh, somebody's wedding photo.
Gary, let them know they're not social distancing enough.
That's right.
Good, Freddie.
No,
This is not,
I just try to.
this is not at all.
Marta's in her happy place. I'm in mine.
Yeah.
Exactly, those are exactly the words I used to describe this background.
Again.
How come I can't hear?
Join the meeting.
All commenting.
Because this thing sucks. I have to sit beside you and make sure this is.
I'm gonna do it.
You won't be able to speak.
Join the meeting.
Like I said, it's my turn to speak, then I move over there. ¿Estás oyendo?
Morning, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning, Commissioner.
How are you doing? So nice to see you and see you healthy. Yeah, this is great.
Wow, there's 3 pages of people.
That's right. Wow. Okay, good morning. Let's do the roll call.
Right before, can I just say a few words for the protocols?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning and welcome to our first full Miami DDA Board of Directors virtual meeting. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Yvonne De La Vega, Board Secretary for the Miami DDA, and I will be serving as the moderator along with Ivory Boston and Elvira Mannon from our team. Some important information before we begin. Board members are reminded not to communicate with other board members via chat, message, or phone, as it is a violation of the Florida Sunshine Law. All conversation is to happen within this meeting that is being recorded. We encourage board members and all participants to use the chat feature for any questions and/or comments you may have during the discussion. Board members, Miami DDA Executive Director, City of Miami Deputy Attorney, and all our presenters, and I will be on video with the microphones open. Please note that if you mute yourself, you will need to request that the meeting host, that's me, reopen the microphone via chat or text. You will not be able to unmute yourself. I will open up video and microphones for the remaining people who have joined in just a few minutes. Members of the public will be able to view this digital meeting fully, but microphone and webcam features will be disabled unless necessary. There will be a public comment section after each discussion item where questions from the chat will be read and appropriate parties have the opportunity to respond. The chat button is located at the bottom center of the Zoom screen, and your questions will be seen by all who are in attendance. Members of the public who are dialing in will not be able to use the chat feature, but you may text your questions to 305-321-0334, and we will try to address them as time permits. Your phone will be muted for the duration of this meeting. And with that, Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours so that we can begin with roll call.
Thank you, Yvonne. Let's start a roll call. I'm going to start myself. Manolo Reyes, City of Miami Commissioner, DDA Chairman.
Alan Ojeda, Board Member.
Danette Linares, Board Member.
Suzanne Amaducci, Board Member.
Nitin Matwani, Board Member.
Gary Ressler, Board Member.
Richard Lydeco, board member.
Marta Viciedo, board member.
Philippe Houdard, board member.
Spencer Crowley, board member.
Jose Malaya, board member.
Christina Crespi, Executive Director, Miami DDA.
Barnaby Min, City Attorney's Office.
Milton Vickers, Director, Human Services, City of Miami.
Is that it?
Franklin Sermons, board member.
And Franklin. Do we have Greg West or Alicia Cervera? Okay.
Okay. Okay. Listen, before we start, I really want to thank our staff and the wonderful job that they've been doing working from home, and all the different programs that we've been working, and how that we've been working with the pilot program, and also with porta potties that they were taking on. I mean, they were eliminated because they had problems, and now we're trying to solve the problem and working together with the city of Miami. And that is something that I would like to see more of, that we keep on working in partnership with the Miami-Dade County and the city of Miami. I think it will behoove us, all of us, to work as or march at the same drumbeat. Having said that, I going to cede the floor to Cristina Crespo, and so she can give us an update on COVID-19. Christina?
Hello, everyone. It's great to see everybody on the Zoom call. Happy that everybody's safe and appreciate all your support during this time. I'm going to go just quickly. I've been sending updates every week to the board on the various progress of the staff. I'll say that the staff has been truly amazing during this time. It's been a truly challenging time balancing working from home and keeping up with everything that's going on. And I think the staff has done an amazing job keeping the ball rolling on all of our initiatives while adding more to the plate during this crisis. We've been working really hard to stay true to the mission, keeping businesses open and continuing to keep the streets safe for our residents, and ensuring the quality of life and safety of everyone that's in downtown currently. And to that end, I wanted to thank the Enhanced Services team and the ambassadors and Jennifer Rodero for her leadership on that front. We've been keeping track of all the incidences in the district, along with cleaning the streets and working with the police department to ensure the safety of everyone in the area. The city and the county have been amazing. I've been providing those updates to you all via email. If you have any questions on those and how that works, feel free to reach out to me. But at this time, I'd like to remind everybody, back a couple of months ago, we started a thank you campaign to thank the DET team and the ambassadors for their hard work. And we got some great feedback from the board members a couple months back. And as a result, we've repurposed those videos for this COVID-19 situation. And since they are our essential employees that are on the streets of downtown, we wanted to just show you the quick clip. So Kim, if you can play the video for everybody to see the updated version, that'd be great. You're missing sound. So it seems like we don't have sound on the video, Yvonne, I'm not sure.
No, I don't.
No, there's no sound.
Sound is on, Kim is saying, but not sure what's happening with the sound.
All right, one more time. Here we go.
Here we go.
Okay, still some technical difficulties. I think we'll just move on, but we wanted to at least show you that, and wanted to thank board member Gary Ressler for his idea to do the thank you campaign, because I think it's very appropriate right now. So thank you very much for that. We've also been making phone calls to each and every business. The very first week that the COVID crisis hit, I mobilized staff very quickly to work remotely from home. We've been working very diligently in that way. We have Zoom calls every day just to update on all the different various initiatives. And really quickly in the beginning, we surveyed the businesses that were open, essential versus non-essential, and very quickly realized that the restaurants in the area needed our assistance to stay open. So we launched the Go Local, Go Direct campaign in partnership with Schwartz that helped us push that through social and market that. And it's been a great success. We were the first organization to have our website up to date and really working in concert with the city and the county on making sure that we were providing resources to our residents on what next, what was closed, what was open. And so kudos to the marketing team that really had to step up to the plate. We have a small team of 3 people. They worked around the clock on an hourly basis to make sure our website was up to date. So I really want to thank Kim Hills and her team for that. We also partnered with the South Beach Food and Wine Festival and FIU on a grant program back in the beginning of this process, and they raised about $1.4 million to help restaurants in the area. And to date, we've been able to get 68 restaurants and bars funding in the district, which is incredible, and $162,000 in grant funding towards restaurants and bars in the area. Danette Linares, our board member, served on the selection committee, and Kevin Ruiz, Julia, Ilona, Nikki, all served to support her in that process and make sure that we're helping out restaurants fill out those applications and ensuring that they're up to date on everything that we have to offer. So that was great work. And in the package on the agenda, we have a recommendation that the executive committee vetted last week to approve and allocate an additional $25,000 to that grant program. And so we can wait to discuss that, but I just wanted to mention that that's an extension of that program. We also created a small business task force, which has been really successful. Julia and the team has been doing a lot of the calls and outreach on that front. It's made up of 12 professional volunteers, accountants, and attorneys, and we've assisted about 40 businesses navigate the federal and state programs. Go ahead, Chairman. Would you like to say something?
No.
Oh, I thought he wanted to say something. And really wanted to thank the chairman for helping us push that as well. We didn't only focus on downtown businesses. Anyone that called that hotline or emailed our loanassistance@miamidda.com, we assisted because we really want to be a partner in the community and not turn folks away. And Commissioner Higgins has been great too, helping to share and guide us on that front too. And so it's been a great success. We've gotten a lot of media out of it, and we're ready to assist once additional funding comes down. Thank you to the City Commission for passing those additional funds yesterday. So we'll be putting that up on our website and learning more about how we can assist businesses through those programs. We also hosted our first Friday forum on a Wednesday, which was a little bit awkward, but because of this virtual life that we all live, we did it on just this past Wednesday. And Kim, Julia, Yvonne De La Vega, who's now become a Zoom pro, hosted that. We had about 50 or so businesses and residents on that call. It was very informative. We stayed true to the mission of the DDA, continuing to promote and help explain all the various programs that we were putting out there, and also to really push the census and make sure that people aren't forgetting to be counted, because it is really important for us. And so we did provide that information on that call, which was great. Our virtual platform has been a great success as well. Very quickly, we realized that we wanted to help people to have some sort of joy during this time where we're all sheltered in place and at home. So we've launched a virtual platform that has everything from book readings, poetry, art, family programs, and music. Most recently, like I think many of you may have watched the David Guetta performance that we partnered with his team on. Michael from his team is on this call, so thank you to you all for your partnership. We had over 20 million views on that video. It showcased the city in an amazing way. Thank you to Philippe Houdard for making that connection during this time. I mean, it really was truly a logistical collaboration between the city of Miami and the police department to make sure that we were addressing issues as they came. And we had a quick 1-minute recap of this, of the concert we wanted to show. If we can get the sound and video to work. Yvonne, why don't you try to do that now and see if we can get that to play.
Kim's laptop is freezing, so I will try to play that right now. Let's see. Hear it?
And I'll just keep chatting until that happens. So 55,000 viewers on our DDA platforms alone, which is the largest to date. Is it working? It's our first one that we're doing like this, so bear with us for a second. There we go.
Oh, okay.
Except the sound is the issue again, Yvonne.
Can't see it?
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with the audio. We tried it yesterday.
So the opening of that video, which is playing a little slow, and we can send this link around just to everybody to make it easier. At the beginning of the video, it opens up with the Miami Downtown Development Authority logo. And thanks to Michael and your team for partnering with us and helping us to market the downtown area to the world. It was amazing. Like I said, 55,000 viewers on our platform alone to date. I mean, that's the largest we've ever had. So it was great. We also raised $700,000 in 90 minutes, which local charity Feeding South Florida got close to 300,000 of that money, which is going to feed 1.8 million people in South Florida. And so really proud of that and all of the effort that was put into that and making sure that we were sharing, the news and being able to just be a part of that was truly humbling and amazing. It really was a beautiful experience to see the world come together in that way. So I don't know if anybody wants to say anything, Philippe, if you want to mention anything. I know you were a big part of it.
Yeah, sure. So let's see, am I on?
Now you're on mute.
Okay,
You're good.
great. Yeah, I just want to say fantastic job, Christina and DDA staff, and tremendous job by Schwartz Media, especially Paula, also Victoria, and really thanks to Michael Weisenfeld, who brought this opportunity to us with really a chance to do something. We were really lucky that everything came together. As Christina said, there were, I don't know what the final numbers were in terms of viewership, but something probably most everybody knows David Guetta is one of the most renowned DJs in the world. He's got 50 million followers on his Facebook page. He's been, in all the greatest nightclubs in the world for the last 20 or 30 years, extremely well-known figure. So to be able to showcase Miami during this time and to do it in such a way where he brought together the music and the energy and the sort of inspiration, the solidarity, but it was really about raising money for these worthy organizations. Yeah, $700,000 in such a short period of time. As everybody I think knows, there are 26 million people who have filed for unemployment in the last 5 weeks. People are legitimately starting to go hungry in different parts of Miami. It's really concerning. So to see this for such a great cause was fantastic. Again, I want to thank Michael, who's the inspiration behind all of this and really reached out. Just very briefly on, Christina did a great job throughout. It was so critical to get the icons board behind this. Michael worked closely with Christina to get a letter from the DDA encouraging them to approve this and do it quickly. Same thing with all the surrounding buildings, getting the police force behind this, getting the permitting. And again, such a short order of time, all very difficult from a logistical perspective. And then Schwartz Media's team, just tremendous effort, getting exposure, just from the Rolling Stone magazine article to just the various publications throughout. It was just really great. David Guetta's team was extremely enthusiastic and appreciative throughout, expressed their gratification for gratitude for the DDA's help, and doing it so quickly on such a large scale in such a short period of time is really something. You know, none of these things go off without a hitch. If you're looking for purity, you're not going to get it, despite all of our efforts to conceal the location until the actual moment that it started. And despite the fact that the DDA had police forces, the police force protecting the entry, there were a couple of bozos who decided to opportunistically have, you know, one guy had a party on the balcony, got a lot of coverage. I frankly found that quite offensive. The fact that there was this tremendous effort underway, the fact that so much money for such good causes were all came together, that was a focus on several select articles, kind of reminds me of somebody who gives a Heimlich maneuver to somebody who's choking, and then all anybody talks about is the bruised rib that came out of it. It was just, I found that offensive, so I'm not even going to address that anymore. But just to say that, again, this was a great effort, and thanks to everybody who did it. It was a huge coup for the city of Miami, I think, during a time that needed it.
If I may add, I agree with everything that Felipe has said, and it's a shame that what was the emphasis that the press placed on those incidents. That we know that in our city, we have a lot of people, some people that they are so, I believe that they are pseudo-anarchists. And whatever you tell them to do, they don't want to do it. But you're going to find that in every single city and in the world. Yeah, but it was a success. I really congratulate everybody, all the organizers. And Ted and Paula, you did a great job. You kept all of us informed, and also you advertised it through all the world. And I think it was a success, and particularly personally, I am grateful because about 200,000, over 200,000 of the funds that were collected will go to Feeding South Florida. And I've been using Feeding South Florida lately, and in distributing food for the people that needs it in the different areas of the city of Miami and my district. And that is a great help for that organization to keep on providing food to people that really needs it. And congratulations. I'm real proud of what was accomplished.
And just if I could add just one anecdote to represent the above and beyond effort. On Friday, the day before the event, David Guetta and his team went to go do a sound check on the Icon the day before, and I guess there was a little bit of a snafu on the communication, and so there wasn't awareness that was going to happen. So I got a panic call from Michael and David Guetta's team because about a dozen police officers showed up and they were ready to shut it down. Didn't know anything about it. Threatened to shut it down the following night. Christina, we quickly had a three-way. Christina mobilized, called the police, had the police chief and all the necessary people lined up, problem resolved, had to go back and get all the other condos. It was a tremendous undertaking. Anything with an operational requirement like this is never easy. And when it went live on Saturday evening at 6 o'clock, I found it to be so absolutely extraordinary. I don't think Miami's ever looked that good before. I've never seen the angles. I've never seen the images. I've never seen it come across the water. And Miami's going to be hurting, of course, because of the tourism hit that we're going to take and the economy. And this is something that I think it'll be an iconic moment for time to come.
Thank you.
Congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. And to Kim Hills and Ivory and Isaac that were Miami DDA videographers that we've never done anything like that before live. They really did help to make it really special from the DDA's perspective in our accounts on social media. So thanks to everybody, the Schwartz team, and Philippe, thank you for those words. And it was a great experience to be part of it. So
really quick, I would like just to recognize Alicia Cervera La Madrid, our board members, who has joined us as well. Hi, Alicia.
Welcome, Alicia.
I'm sorry, lots of confusion this morning getting on there. I hadn't seen it on the agenda, so.
It's okay.
I made it.
The new normal.
You're
The
on.
new normal.
Now the traffic is on Zoom.
Just to wrap up here really quick, also as part of the music and virtual experiences, we're continuing our Downtown Vibes Happy Hour. So that's every Friday from 6 to 7. We have a DJ that would have worked in the bars in downtown take over our Instagram account and give happiness and music to folks for an hour virtually at home. So tune in if you haven't on our Instagram page. And then just moving forward and coming off of a moment like the Ghetto event and what's next for the DDA and the board and the team, really wanted to start collecting some data around the economy, jobs lost, the tourism industry and whatnot. So Ivory Boston took the partnership with the Wharton School, which we were working on before the COVID crisis, and created a baseline for an economic recovery plan. And so he's done a really good job to shape thoughts around what the world is going to look like for us moving forward. We've shared it with the city, the Greater Miami Visitor and Convention Bureau. We've been on several calls with them to make sure we're all in sync, Beacon Council as well. And everybody's taking this report as the beginnings of the next step. And so we're going to be a part of the task force for recovery on the city's end. And Ivory will walk us through that in a second very quickly, just to give you a high level overview. I think it was shared with the board. So if you have any feedback, let us know. Out of that, eventually will come what I hope is a master planning process to give us a real understanding of where we need to be moving forward. And also wanted to mention that we're in budget process already, and the city unfortunately is taking major hits. Fortunately, the city of Miami Beach had to lay off over 350 people. It's been a really hard time at the city of Miami. I know Commissioner Chairman Reyes has been involved in all those discussions. I've been keeping through Yvonne Barrios, who's done an amazing job through our personnel and accounting and budget. We've been looking at the budget as a whole. We've frozen salaries to make sure that we're preparing for what's to come and looking at prioritizing our initiatives so we can have a good, well-rounded discussion based on this new normal that we're about to embark in once business starts coming back online. So just wanted to mention that if anybody has any questions, we'll be scheduling a finance committee in the next coming weeks to discuss the specifics of the budget. But Ivory, I'll kick it off to you now to go through that presentation, and really wanted to thank the board's support and everybody that's on the call that took the time today. So Ivory, go ahead.
Thank you, Christina. Good morning, everybody. You should be able to see my screen now.
Yes.
Luckily, there's no sound here, so we should be set. What I will say is, as Christina said, this was a collaboration with the Wharton School of Business Mac Institute. We do have some great schools here in South Florida. We reached out to them initially, and they did not respond. So please don't take this as any shade towards our local institutions. But nonetheless, here's what we have. What you're going to see is not saying that we have all the answers. If anybody had all the answers, they'd be very, very wealthy right now. But this is saying that we're asking the questions, and we're going to continue to ask the questions as we can and as things develop. So essentially, this first crack is essentially looking at conditions currently impacting downtown Miami as of April 2020. Earlier in the month, this was compiled. This is a forecast for what life will look like in downtown Miami post-COVID-19 outbreak 1920. I wished this didn't have to have a name in terms of outbreak number, but this is the reality we're in. And this is meant to be a resource to provide areas of consideration for the Miami DDA. Current realities. Downtown has been impacted by COVID-19 in terms of cases and economic impact. Before I go any further, I do want to say my heart goes out to anyone who has been impacted by this, either directly or indirectly. This is a serious thing, so definitely, prayers with those people. In terms of economic impact, most storefront businesses are closed, as we know, and every single open business has had to alter operations. There is not an exception to this. At least 1,593 individuals working within the downtown district have been laid off. This is at least because the Florida WARN notices, which essentially you have to submit when you're doing layoffs, is behind. In addition, many organizations just are not updating that at this time. So again, we have at least 1,593, but the number is likely a bit higher. Others have seen scheduling stopped, hours cut, pay cut, or furloughs. One of the largest property firms in Miami, in this case, the Related Group, was on record as of last week saying that only 20% of commercial tenants had paid rent, but 90% of multifamily tenants had done so. MIA is seeing fewer passengers and fewer flights, of course, because the tourism industry is closed. And last, my mask is too tight. This essentially means that people are becoming fatigued of the situations we're in. Downtown Miami, by and large, as we mentioned earlier, has rallied around what do we have to do to flatten the curve, to be responsible, to put this behind us. But there is starting to be fatigue setting in amongst the population, which we can see. What are the steps to consider before we get back to normal? For the purposes of this meeting, I won't call this the new normal because we don't want to use that, but I will call this the alternate reality. And there's 3 steps we're looking at essentially. Step 1 is containment and mitigation. That is where we currently are today. So that essentially is tracking who has the disease, trying to contain them best we can, and eliminating society contact interactions. This isn't the perfect solution, but it is the best chance we have to go back to something that resembles where we were before, at least for the time being. By fall of 2020, most experts are saying there will be some sort of treatment identified. And what this means is that it will not be a vaccine. People will still be able to get COVID-19, but at least when they do get it, there will be some sort of treatment that they will be able to go to the hospital, get treated, and hopefully leave much quicker than we're seeing today. Vaccination. This is the final step before normal is reality once again. And this is expected on or before March of 2022. I wish I can say that was a typo, but this is ultimately what we're dealing with. Working with the Wharton School of Business, we looked at what will the travel recovery be post-containment. So again, this is post-containment in any given local place of those individuals traveling out. So we could probably see this starting to develop in some of the southern states as of right now, actually. So within 3 to 6 months, we have the for the grammars. These are the people that want to be seen and see things. In many cases, they've been itching to leave their homes. This is the personal and leisure travel sector, top 50% of earners, and they're looking to do domestic travel. What I will warn people on and what we have seen is that many people around this country and around the world currently have travel vouchers for airlines. Due to coronavirus, they were not able to travel. So there may very well be a quick uptick to start in terms of people saying, I need to redeem this to go to Miami, I need to redeem this to go home, or wherever the case may be. But then we will go back to the adjusted curve we're seeing. 6 to 9 months, urgent business. 9 to 12 months, business leisure travelers. 12 to 16 months, wait and sees. They are not looking for deals. They're looking basically to see that all two before them are okay. And 18 months out, looking at general. Now, this is looking at traffic. This is not looking at revenue to the industry. In terms of tourism, you'll see 2 different categories here. On the left, you'll see the US results for people around the US searching for these terms. And as you can see, overall, it did bottom out a couple weeks ago, unsurprisingly so. Some places have had a little bit better of a trajectory than others, but in general, people are not looking for hotels as of late, and we understand why. Globally, what you'll see is that those numbers actually are starting to pick up a bit. So people now around the world in general are starting to look back for things like Miami hotels, New York hotels. So that is some hope. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We see that this is trickling in, but when they actually can come back is up in the air. In terms of tourism, in addition, what we're seeing in terms of downtowns around the United States now is that the clean teams are now the sanitizing teams. So the teams that they once had and they still have, they've switched to, whether it is spraying, just a spray bottle on surfaces such as button pushes for pedestrian crossings, handles, parking meters, garbage cans, anything in the public purview, they're looking to sanitize, and they're publicizing that as much as they can, saying, hey, downtown is sterilized, downtown is ready for you. And this is something we're seeing across the board. So here we're looking at downtown New York, New Jersey, Reno, Nevada, downtown Austin, and the Chicago Loop Alliance in downtown Chicago. The economy, as we know, our recovery is tied to how quick visitors and locals can support our businesses, either through consumer confidence, affordability, or feeling confident enough to come back and travel. Stimulating actions will include review drives. So essentially saying, hey, you are getting takeout from a restaurant, please review it on Google. Please review it on Yelp, because when tourists come back, that's what they're gonna be looking to find restaurants. So that is one of the easiest things that we as an organization can do to start seeding those reviews, making sure people see our restaurants downtown as where they wanna go. Our stores is where they need to go. Our events is where they can't live without. Downtown will have to demonstrate that we are ready for the alternate reality. With, again, those sanitizing efforts, helping businesses to demonstrate enhanced cleaning, and that the risk of transmission is low. We also see that flexible leasing is very likely to be attractive for many businesses with the uncertainty around the economy. This ultimately would aid our co-working space stock. For the first wave of COVID-19, the real estate market is on pause around the world. So this is saying that we don't anticipate any sort of elongated downturn. Now, this is with the assumption of a ongoing stable recovery across the board. The Miami DDA will continue to push the desirability of downtown Miami through the marketing aspects, through talking about why Miami is the place to be, and through really branding the heck out of our district. As Christina said, we're partnering with the city of Miami and local organizations as they plan for their respective recoveries. And the findings in this report may very well inform the next Miami DDA master plan. Ongoing considerations. So as I said, all of the answers are not here, but the questions are bubbling. And what happens if there's an uneven US or global recovery? What are the job market forces going to be? So if someone loses their job, are they anchored to downtown Miami, or is that something that we might lose? The mental place of downtowns and concerns around urban settings post-COVID-19. So what does someone feel like going to a downtown area? Has it shifted at all? That's something to be determined. Cruise market recovery, the evolution of the retail and dining sector, Miami's strong roots with the Southern Hemisphere and opposing seasons. So when our cases go down in the summer, what does that mean for South America in their winter? And if we are exchanging travel and people and ideas in that way? As I said, the impact of existing travel vouchers, Miami's role as a domestic travel destination. So again, we are the #2 international travel destination in the country, but we do not crack the top 10 when it comes to domestic travel. So it's a question of what happens if domestic recovers first. US immigration policies, as we're seeing, this is constantly evolving. And what does office life look like after the COVID-19 first outbreak? These questions ongoing will be answered through myself, through the DDA team, and through the Wharton School of Business. I encourage anybody, if you have any questions, to email me, ask them now. But this, again, is just us getting into the mentality of we're doing what we have to do now, but what comes next? What does the future look like? And this is what we have. Thank you all.
I think this is a great job. I myself, as an economist, I have been predicting that our recovery, given the structure of our economy, is going to take a little while. It's going to take longer than most places because we are tight with the tourism industry, and it's one of the ones that is going to be mostly affected. I think it's going to be worse than any other type of industry. And that, given the fact that many people are afraid, and we have all this collective panic of being together, clustered together with a bunch of people. I myself, I wouldn't getting an airplane or an elevator with a group of people. At least I'm going to be in a convention where everybody is going to be. That's one of the main sources of people coming down to South Florida. And I think that it's going to take a while, and we have to be prepared. And I think this is a good start. And I have a question about sanitizing. Christina, do we have, or have we thought about joining the city of Miami or Dade County and trying to obtain the equipment to sanitize our streets and storefronts, and just the same way that it was shown in Chicago and other cities? That's a question that I had received by many of my constituents and also business people, that they don't see the same type of sanitizing in our streets and they have done in other parts of the world, and also in some cities in the United States. And I think that is something that we should consider, to try to find the ability to enter into an agreement either with the city of Miami or with any other Miami-Dade County. And I mean, I think that we will have to work together. How can we sanitize, taking into consideration the limitations that Durham places on us, that we cannot use every type of disinfectant, but do I would say a periodic disinfectation of our streets.
Definitely, Mr. Chairman. Been in discussions with the city about that, and we will figure out when, as this recovery plan moves forward, how to partner with them on that front. So yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Christina or Chairman, I have a few comments. First, thank you for the presentation. I think it's very well conceived and done. And of course, the David Guetta thing was amazing. In addressing our public, I think we have two clear publics, the people who live in Miami and the people who don't. So for the people who live in the Miami area, spot on and all that good stuff. But for the people who don't, it's a relative situation, right? What we might think as a dangerous ambiance, they may feel is a very safe one compared to where they're coming from. So I'm wondering how we're in touch with the airport to see what kind of checks they're going to do as people fly into our city. Not only for the reality of protecting the citizens of Miami as people come in from all over, which may or may not have a much higher level of coronavirus cases, because who knows what the reporting is like. So there's that reality, and there's also the perception that if we're not doing anything, and I know that when I flew in right before all of this broke down, I flew into South Africa and had a thermometer on my forehead. I came to Miami and there was nothing, which surprised me, especially since it was after, later, closer to this debacle. So I think that's a very important thing. And the other thing that I've been getting very good traction as I've been doing presentations around the world, and we've presented to over 1,000 people since this started through our different projects and our different agents, is that talking about what the United States is doing to deal with this crisis, not only medically, but also financially and economically, has had huge traction, because most people are not getting any aid in their countries. So it once again affirms why, regardless of what's happening in the world, the United States and the Southeast and Florida and Miami is a great place to come and to invest. So I think we should look at doing some messaging around that. It has been very well received.
May I, Alicia, that's a great point that you just stated. As a matter of fact, yesterday we passed a resolution during the commission meeting requesting for the Miami-Dade County, which is in charge of the airport, to test everybody that arrives from any other areas, because right now that from what the information that we have is the same thing that you just said, that you get into Miami and they don't even take your temperature. I mean, people, they just get out of the plane and they are free to go wherever they want without being tested for possible contamination. And we passed that resolution, and now I'm going to take this opportunity that Vice Chair Commissioner Higgins is here, and I think that probably Commissioner Suarez is listening, that you just try to move this resolution forward, and we take the proper measures at Miami International Airport to test everybody that arrives in the city, in the county. Everybody that uses that airport should be tested.
And I think that needs to be promoted, so that people coming to the city know that we're taking these measures to keep everybody safe.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
If you don't mind, Mr. Chair, every day we have as every community is, a daily emergency operations call, and our airport director is on it every day. Couple of things. There is virtually no traffic in nor out of our airport. Almost all of the flights going in and out right now are cargo flights. So even if you're seeing a plane flying over, it looks like it's British Air or something else. Right now, most of those are cargo planes. As of last week, our flight traffic was down to kind of less than 4%. Our passenger traffic was down to less than 4% of what it used to be. So we're only having about 5,000 people a day go through the airport. Anyone coming in from international, there's very few of those flights left, is getting their temperature taken, and they are filling out a very detailed, they're filling out, particularly if they're coming from hotspots, a form that the Department of Health has required. So in some parts, in some ways, we're like that. We are still running flights, particularly to get cruise ship crew members home. And those procedures are under the control of CDC and Coast Guard. No one is allowed to leave the cruise ship until there is a charter flight. The CDC is not allowing commercial flights right now. And we literally have just one terminal. Most of the airport is closed, obviously. So we have a special terminal set up. People's temperatures are being screened. They're going directly from the port out literally almost to the tarmac after going through the x-ray machines. And we have that set up very specially for that. I think you are right that the long-term solution to international travel is going to be a quick result test, right? So that we're going to be confident. I'm going to go to the airport, I'll get my finger pricked. 15 minutes later, you'll know whether or not I'm positive, and then I go do my security thing. Right now, quite frankly, the airport traffic is very, very low. As you all know, getting the tests, and it's not just the test, the county continues, as does the state, to have trouble getting the swabs and the reagents for all of these things. So we continue to, I think, do the best we can. And if you'd like, maybe at the next meeting we have our airport director come and talk not just about the airport procedures, but the reality is right now the airlines are going to be working on when and how they feel safe coming back from the traveling public.
Commissioner, what I'm referring mostly is I know that international travel is almost nil.
Yeah.
But the problem that I see is that there are some travelers from hotspots such as New York.
Yes.
That they jump in a plane in New York and then they land in Miami. And then they are not even the temperature is taken.
So
that is the main concern.
Yeah,
it is national flights that
Yes.
are main concern.
Yes. So there are several. This has been put in place by our governor. There are several places, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, among them, that the state governor DeSantis is requiring that all of those passengers not only have their temperature being taken, but they have to fill out a form of where they are, and they are required by his emergency powers to quarantine for 14 days. Not to kind of isolate and hang out and every now and then be 6 feet away from folks, to actually quarantine in their buildings. Obviously, enforcement of that is very difficult, and by the time he put those constraints in place, and it's Department of Health state officials that have been screening those flights at the airport. But that has been happening, I'm not sure if it's quite for a month now, but it's close to a month now since the governor put those constraints in place.
Last week, I think it was Channel 23 or Univision, they made a report about an individual that he jumped on a plane in New York, and he was not checked in New York. He landed in the city of Miami, in MIA, and he was not checked. And this has brought, a lot of concern.
I'm not at the airport every day.
No, but I'm just got the messenger.
Yes, we can, if you'd like, we can invite the airport director to do that. But we are operating, at least on checking domestic passengers, it is the State Department of Health that tells us what to do. There's a lot of things at the airport. Right now, I mean, I really am not convinced the 3 people flying into Miami International MIA are a risk. It's us being out too close to one another in the grocery stores. But I think we should, as time goes over and when we get a little closer, and I'm not even convinced it'll be the next board meeting, that once we have a better understanding, once the airlines have a better understanding of when they are going to be comfortable flying more frequently and what those schedules are going to be looking like, maybe we have them come and give us a report of what the future
I also think that a communication plan that starts educating the public, you know, if you want to fly, you need to wear a mask and gloves. If you want to fly, expect to get this or that or whatever thing. And to start developing that plan, and, you know, I know we're the wrong people to do it, but if no one else is doing it, maybe we take a stab at, look, this is the plan. This is a suggestion. What do you all think? Because if you don't communicate to the public that there's something being done to be safe, even those of us who are desperate to jump on a plane and go somewhere might hesitate. So I think that to communicate all of this, which is you know, great that it's happening, but who knows, unless you're working at the airport or one of those people, is critical.
Yeah, so all great points. I just have two follow-up things. One, Commissioner, I was wondering if private jet travel is being monitored like public, domestic, and international travel, because as I see, I'm not using it, but as I see that private jet travel is way up, and those are the people sometimes that can be a little bit more carefree, like rules don't apply to them. So just, you know, are we having these things at the private FBOs and whatnot is one question. And then to everyone's point, I was on a board call for the Greater Miami and the Beaches Hotel Association, I don't know, earlier this week or late last week. Weeks are kind of blending together. And there was a lot of talk about not wanting tourists to come. And that's probably why we're not going to see the hotels open until June, because no one wants any activity on the beach for Memorial Day weekend. It was a big weekend here, but they're really trying to clamp down on that. And they think only by keeping the beaches closed through Memorial Day weekend will they be able to stop the influx of tourists, so we don't have the same spring break issue that we had, you know, last month. But question about the private jet travel, because that's someplace where it could really get it.
And that's a good point.
Yeah, why don't we just schedule Lester for the next meeting so we get all of the details from the airport, Miami executive, and you know, and all of that.
That is great. That is great.
Okay, I'll work on that.
Can I throw out one question, Commissioner?
Yes, who is?
Richard.
Raise my hand.
Oh, Richard. Oh, okay. I wasn't able to locate you.
This is the first time I've tried doing this on an iPad. I'm getting slowly better at it, and I haven't disconnected myself yet. But I think fundamentally, if I'm throwing this out for a thought, I think what I would look for is there's going to be two phases. Anything I've heard, there's going to be a soft opening where we're sort of stages, and then there's going to be a vaccine. What does the DDA do in phase one, and then what do we do in phase two to jumpstart the local businesses? So how do we bring value? So, like, you know, if it's a soft start because we're all social distancing, and then what do we do to get the businesses in Mary Brickell Village customers and in a responsible way? And then if there's a vaccine, all of a sudden, say next, you know, hopefully 2 months from now, they say, hey, we've got a vaccine. This is no longer an issue. Everybody get a shot. Let's move forward. All right, great. How are we, at a micro level, going to have jumpstart our businesses and jumpstart the restaurants and everything downtown? Now, is that at concerts? Is that a weekly Sears concerts to draw somebody into draw everybody downtown? I thought the David Guetta thing was really good. I thought that showcased Miami. I personally, I'd like to see that as a Friday happy hour. We're gonna get, you know, some singer out there and do something like that. You're getting a lot of great publicity out of that. But to me, like, I don't want us to get caught flat-footed when all of a sudden somebody says, okay, hey, this is a thing of the past. What is our 10-step plan to revitalize downtown in half the time as any other city?
That's a great point. That's a great point. But what we're seeing now is that we are trying to establish the first phase, but I think that we should start working towards that moment when we open up the restaurants. How can we promote our restaurants and in downtown Miami, our businesses in downtown Miami and around Brickell and all of those places? Yes, we should be ready for them, and we should start establishing the.
That a tailored Miami spice sort of thing, where
yes, I mean that is something that could be analyzed, and I think that is going to be a task for our staff, and any suggestions that any one of you have, please let Christina knows it, and then we could start like that. The first phase, because this is. according to what I have read, it's going to be in 3 phases. The first phase is the phase now that I think it's going to be. I don't know if it is going to be beginning of next week or tomorrow that it's going to be announced. It is the opening of parks, golf courses with very strict. I mean, they regulations. I read them, and they are very strict regulations, and parks, and also with the regulations. And marinas, that is something that some people are arguing, and some in favor and some against. But that's the first phase. As the level of contaminations keep on decreasing, then gonna be phase 2. And phase 2, I think it is gonna be partially opening restaurants where you have to be 6 feet apart and all of that, and where the
in those phases, though, what I would be interested in to hear from all the businesses on the board, and where I think we might be able to bring value as a board,
absolutely,
is together a 10-point, 15-point program. So when all of a sudden that phase happens, we're executing.
That's right.
We're not debating. We're not waiting a month for the next meeting. But the commissioners have a plan. We have it with the DDA. Everybody's out executing, because you could save businesses like that. And I think particularly too, all of a sudden somebody gets a vaccine. I know everybody's trying to get one. I know it's wishful thinking, but if it comes earlier than expected, I think I saw March 2022. All right, well, what happens if it comes next June?
Or
we're all debating what we should do to jumpstart an economy. I think we should have a 10-point plan, 15-point plan, concert, Miami Spice, something that we're going to be able to just hit the ground running.
I agree with you, and just as before this happened, before the stimulus package came out, and when they were talking about Christina and we got together, and I decided that we have to be prepared for that event when it happened, and that's why we formed this task force. And but same token, your point is very well taken. I think that what we have to do is analyze those phases that they're going to determine what type of businesses and when they're going to be open, and that we have to, with everybody's cooperation and our staff, and develop policies that we are being undertaken, or actions that are going to be undertaken if once we arrive at those phases. Your point is very well taken, and Christina, I would love for you to follow up with this. Okay.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Richard. We're going to be working towards that. I appreciate.
And I have a suggestion that I think is something we could do right now. I think as we're doing the soft opening, I've heard that some cities are taking streets and turning them into sidewalks. So that I think in downtown, in areas that are particularly dense, maybe we could do that, take one lane on each side, or whatever the plan is, and make that available for restaurants. So that, because of course we now know that being outside is much safer, and it increases their capacity immediately. So maybe these restaurants, particularly in downtown that are smaller and packed in, if we give them use of the street to set up their tables when they open, it might, alleviate the situation. And also just to get out and walk. It's hard to be 6 feet apart or whatever it is when you're on a sidewalk. So maybe we could do that on Brickell also, take one lane on each side.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, excuse me. Let me inform you that that is an idea that has been also floated by Mr. Ressler. And we have been in contact, and we've been working with DOT, and the county has to also accept the closure of streets, and this is got to be an effort between county, the city, and DOT. Yeah, because we don't have the authority of streets. You see, I mean, the city of Miami, we don't have the authority of do with the streets whatever we want. We have to go through the county and sometimes DOT, because the cities they are not owned by the. Very few cities are owned by the cities that they are in. Either county has the authority over them, or the Department of Transportation, and sometimes the federal government.
So,
That is something that
yeah,
has to be. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, I realize working with FDOT at a time like this is going to be extremely difficult, right? To get
Yes.
in a street that's in FDOT's control is just a whole level of bureaucracy that we may not be able to get through. But many of the streets in downtown Brickell are City of Miami streets and avenue, and if there's one that you thought the City of Miami thought was appropriate and to widen one side or the other, I'd be happy to push through those changes with county's DTPW, recognizing that we are a bureaucracy, but happy to help if the city feels as if there's any place that's
Biggest problem there is most of the city-owned streets. They're on the outskirts of the business districts.
Flagler Street is a great example. I'm sorry to interrupt, if I may. Flagler Street is a great example where there's very little traffic right now, and the city has complete control of it. You know, the issue we have now is that it is simply dangerous to have people walking the streets on 4-foot wide sidewalks and expect them to be able to socially distance 6 feet apart. That's why I've been advocating for closure of a number of streets, including Biscayne Boulevard, Flagler Street. I know that the DNA, the Brickell Homeowners Association, as well as the Biscayne Neighbors Association also have streets that they'd like to propose. However I can be a resource, I know that since Christina reached out to FDOT, I have personally spoken with our state senator Pizzo, state representative Fernandez, both of whom feel that the position taken by FDOT might be too aggressive and not necessarily within their purview. So it would be wonderful to further explore it.
I would like to explore it further. I mean, I have sent the communications. I've been communicating with different authorities, and including with our administration, and they have I don't know if you received I think it was an email that they sent us, and I sent it to Christina, and I don't know if you, Gary, did you receive a copy of it? But I will further relay this message and advocate for that, because I think there are some streets that we can, if we are going to be in phase 2, that we are opening restaurants. I think that is a great idea, that we provide some space for those restaurants to place tables, so they could maintain the social distance that will be required, and they could serve more people that way.
Okay. I'm happy to look into that as the city and the county search.
I will do that. Okay.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, we have a couple of questions and comments on the chat, and I would like to, with your permission, if it's okay to read them. Yep, okay. From Michael Weisenfeld, who is part of Team GETA, we welcome him. He asked when we were discussing about the airports, but shouldn't people be treated when boarding from point of origin? Because what happens if someone from New York City comes to New York City and has temperature when tested in Miami? Do we send people back? If so, how? Who pays? Where are holding people with fever while waiting for a flight? I think it should be a collective effort from all airports. Or do we ask them to quarantine themselves in Miami, in which case there's no real way to control? I don't know if you want to address.
That's a great question. That's very good.
So,
and we can share that with the airport director, and I don't know if Vice Chairwoman has any insight on that, but it's.
I mean, I think these are all great questions that are completely rooted in the core that our country does not have the testing capability it needs to do. Because you're absolutely right, we should all be tested at point of origin. Like if I want to get on a plane, go somewhere, I should be tested before I get on the plane, not after I get on the plane. Most of the folks that came from New York are actually partially Florida taxpayers, right? They were coming to stay in their own homes and their own apartments because none of our hotels are open. And we shut down most Airbnb. I mean, I realize there's probably some people sneaking around. So to the best of my knowledge, which of course is wildly imperfect during a pandemic, most of these folks were literally going to stay in their own homes or their own apartments. So that's all I know. But I think, again, all these airport questions need to be addressed
Yes.
by Lester.
Yes, and I think that also it is important that our public knows about everything that you're informing, because reports like the one that I referred to, what it does, it creates general panic. And what people are saying, and they're coming from New York or any other hotspot, and we don't, when they get it off the plane, we don't even take the temperature. That's what Alicia was saying, and that when she went to the airport, the first thing that she had was a thermometer in her forehead. I'm not even taking the temperature of the people that are traveling. And I think that it would be a good idea to have the airport director, and we can be asking all those questions. Okay. Well,
another comment, if I may, from Susanna Matucci Adams, one of our board members. She said, Alicia, I think you're spot on about the education program. That will be huge and really help to market our city and our business. We need to be thought leaders here. I listened to a presentation by hotel owners regarding some of the creative things they are doing to protect their employees and guests when reopening. Everything from protective shields at check-in, temperature screening for employees, to 2 people per elevator. We should try and gather this per industry. JC Lucano also spoke about what America is doing, installing American is doing, installing door stoppers so that people don't have to touch doors.
Okay.
And then we have another comment from Michael Weisenfeld. He said it would be great for Miami Tourism Bureau to actually do a quick campaign video clip showing all the efforts done at the airports to screen people. Could be a 30 or 60 seconds video clip that could be shared on Instagram and Facebook. And then we have a comment also from Terrell Fritz. Cities nationwide are finding ways to make this work. We need to find a way in downtown Miami.
Okay. Well,
if I could make one suggestion, which I think is it rides on the initial effort with the task force. It also rides on Richard's comment, which is that the challenge that we're facing is so absolutely monumental and existential threat. It's an existential threat to so many businesses in downtown that I think trying to address issues extemporaneously as they come up will be nice, but it's definitely not going to get us where we need, especially as the city's having to make, with the budget cuts and having to lay people off, the problem's, 100 times bigger, and there are 50% as many people at the city level, and probably also resources to address them. And I think if you take a look at what's happening nationally with, the task force to reopen the economy, and then the governor of the state of Florida also coming up with this sort of, this task force to reopen the economy, it seems like there may be a chance for us to assemble maybe 10 or 15 critically important stakeholders in the downtown authority and the DDA zone, and really come up with something much more comprehensive, and that really that great ideas that have been promoted here today, that pulls in some of those ideas in others. And it seems like it's going to need to be an ongoing effort, because this isn't this is like a 3-year type of experience, not talking specifically about the virus itself, but we're just in a very, very troubling situation that is going to require great ideas and sustained effort over a prolonged period of time. And it's going to have to be a volunteer effort, right? Because we just don't have the resources from a government perspective.
I agree with you. And many people think that the recovery is going to be fast. No, it's going to take time. And we have to be ready. And at every stage, we have to be, we have to assist up to whatever, as much as we can do it, and we got to be ready and prepared. And I know it's going to be changing from one month or to another month to the other, but we got to be ready. And I do agree with Richard. We have to start looking into those projected dates or instances that we will change. The policies are going to be changed, and then we start opening more businesses, and we'll have to be ready to provide assistance to the businesses within DDA. And
I wanted to share a little good news in the middle of all of this. You know, after 3 or 4 very painful weeks of zero business, last week in Nativo, which is in the heart of downtown, we wrote 4 contracts. All of this was done virtually and remotely, but it did give me great hope, because that's a pretty good clip. Even when we're open for business as usual, we might be doing 5 to 8. So with 4, it was very, very hopeful. And 2 of those were from the United States, and 2 of them were foreign, 1 from Mexico and 1 from Colombia. It was very exciting. It really was very exciting. And I think that, you know, Florida has been just on point. And Miami, which should have been a hotspot, you all, Commissioner, are really to be praised and recognized for acting quickly. Mayor Suarez shutting down Ultra, all of you standing up, you know, behind and around him to close all of the events so quickly has shown great leadership. And we are getting that message out to the world, because that's what we do in our business. We're doing this constantly. So I think that if we proactively make some of these things that we're talking about happen, we're going to lead in the reopening in a very significant way, because people can't wait to get back to Miami. They're asking us, when are we going to be able to go back? Because for as threatened as we may feel here, this is a walk in the park compared, forget about New York, compared to so many other cities that we just don't know what's happening. But the people who are down there are horrified. So we have a very good opportunity to make this recovery for us, as Miami has defied the odds so many times in the past, to do it again. And whatever I can help with, I'm all in. Let me know if you want to set up a committee, a subcommittee, a Zoom committee, whatever it is.
Well, I think that we should have a committee of that will analyze what steps should be taken at each phase of the opening. I think that we should do that. And Christina, I wanted you to try to form that committee, people that want to work and want to be part of it, and let's start working. I mean, what we have to start it is putting our minds together. I mean, I'm blessed, because I think that I have the best board in the whole world, because it is full of very smart and very community involved people and business with a lot of business acumen, and I think that this is the best board in the whole world, and we can really develop something that could be also a roadmap for many other cities, and I have no doubt about that.
I'll volunteer.
Happy to work with your office on that. Thank you, Richard.
Let's work and together, and we can form a committee that really will analyze and bring all the different ideas that are attainable ideas. You see, I'd be more than glad to work with you guys on all of this.
Great.
Commissioner, if I may ask a question. So we left it at what about this closure of the streets or part of the streets, or make the streets more pedestrian friendly for the time being to allow social distancing? We spoke about it, but are we doing some type of resolution? Or it's only brainstorming?
Well, not that we talked about it. We took action. I personally took action, and I'd relate the message to the authorities. You see that, and
Commissioner, would it be helpful if I proposed a resolution of support from the board of the DDA? Would that be helpful in advocating?
Absolutely. That resolution of support from the DDA, and then I will keep on requesting from the different authorities, including the city of Miami and our administration, that they look into it and see if one problem that we have, and I spoke with our city manager, is the resources. And as you know, the city of Miami now will have around, I would say, we're estimating around $16 million deficit up to now that we're going to have. And resources to keep those streets, you see, and police and barriers and all of that. That was something that he mentioned that at this time we don't have. But maybe we can convince that to use some funds, or we can work together with other agencies and try to accomplish what we want or obtain the resources of some places.
Great. Then I would propose a resolution to support the concept of closing down some automobile traffic lanes for pedestrians. And
please be specific. Specific streets. You see,
sure. I mean,
I know Third Avenue is a very favorable street. I mean, it's just a little piece of street there that it is fantastic to be closer. But be specific so we know who would we have to address. I mean, because as we stated before,
low-hanging fruit would be Flagler on the city side, because city has full control of Flagler.
Okay.
And then if we can work with FDOT at all to close half of Biscayne, they do it pretty easily and quickly for Ultra, and they're pretty used to doing it.
That's right. And we have to be specific also on a time, the time frame that those streets are going to be closed. They have to be only within the emergency period, because I don't think that neither the county or the city of FDOT are going to allow those three cities to be closed or permanently closed,
Agreed.
given the amount of traffic that we have in downtown Miami.
I'd assume that by the time they open up traffic, the parks will be reopened, though, so people will be able to walk through parks. I think the issue now is that parks are all closed.
Parks are going to be open next week. That's definitely. Yeah, and golf courses and marina, that's what I heard.
Look, I think a way to do this could be a rolling opening. So we're proposing that the streets closures happen, and the streets have to be, in control of Miami and in commercial districts to gain access, and that it can be a rolling approval, so that you don't have to tie yourself to a date. So and I think it could be more flexible. And as long as we're making suggestions, the other suggestion that I'm making is that I really believe that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to make this move, that weren't making the move because the kids were in school. Well, they're not in school because, my business, my employees, well, what employees, etc. So that we should very proactively come up with a program of how to move to Miami post-coronavirus. How can we apply to the schools? How can we, help these people move here? Because I believe that there's going to be quite a bit of that. We're going to be surprised at how much of that we're going to get.
I hope so, and I respect your judgment, because in what it is on real estate, you know more than I do. But I really hope you're right.
It's just the inquiries we're getting.
Oh,
I mean,
that is fantastic.
People they're just asking. We really are getting, when I'm doing webinar presentations, I'm getting 150 people, 200 people. It's amazing the traction that we're getting and people wanting to get information. So, maybe, I don't know, well, I guess we can talk offline when we get this committee going, but I think there's a lot of interesting things we can do to promote this.
Fantastic. And also, can never forget that Miami is very resilient, and we are the magic city.
Right.
And we are going to keep our magic. Okay?
We need some magic now, right?
Okay. Let's keep on.
Thank you. I guess there was a motion for the resolution. Barnaby, are you still on? Go ahead.
I'm trying to clarify. Mr. Chairman, what I've heard Mr. Ressler state is it would be a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Miami Downtown Development Authority of the City of Miami, Florida, urging all respective governmental entities with responsibilities over any streets within the Miami DDA's boundaries to consider temporary closures of streets to allow for increased pedestrian access and for potential use of abutting businesses, including but not limited to restaurants, in order to assist with economic recovery from COVID-19.
I don't want to leave it, Barnaby, I don't want this to be open-ended, any street, you see. I think it will be better if we pick the streets that we want to close, because that way we can have a definite answer. No, we cannot close this street or not, but when you said any street, it opens up to any street,
I mean, we can certainly draft it to be specific. The reason I'm suggesting, and of course I defer to you and the board,
Yes.
the reason I suggest that it be broad is because if you just do, for instance, Flagler, as Mr. Ressler suggested, if Flagler is not closed, then you would have to bring back a separate resolution to try and close other streets.
Okay, but make
Not
sure
broad
that
this way you can close whether it's 1 or 20. It's really up to how you guys want to work with various governmental entities.
but make sure that in the resolution I mean, it stated that there is going to be picked by the board. I mean, as we decided.
Sure.
Or can't we just put in the whereas clauses, starting with Flagler, Biscayne Boulevard, and any other, you know?
Or pick the location. Just say we'd like to have the Flagler area streets and the streets abutting, some streets abutting Mary Brickell Village.
Guys, if we say a closure of streets, maybe partial closure of streets.
Partial closure. I mean, when we let me be very clear. And correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner. The county, and as well as the city, they are totally opposed of closing any streets. I mean, be it because of traffic, be it because of cut-through traffic and all of that. I've been dealing with this since the day I was elected with cut-through traffic. There were some people that they wanted to close in certain neighborhoods. They wanted to close some streets and to cut through traffic, and that the county has been opposed to it, and the city also. When we say closure of a street, I know that the first reaction is going to be no. We're not going to close our streets. Our streets are there to be traveled. When you say temporarily, partially closed.
I mean, I actually think what most of the kind of pedestrian advocates have been asking for has been using of lanes of streets.
That's it.
So that you can double or triple the area for pedestrians to be on, so that rather than, so that we have an easier chance of being 6 feet away. And so I actually would suggest that we have the DDA staff look at what streets might be appropriate, because they're going to have to work with police, because you can't close the street and not have other, because bear in mind, we're going to have to Flagler Street, if we close the whole thing, we have emergency vehicle accesses to the bridges that have to be considered. So I think we just have the DDA staff work with the local police commanders to come up with what streets we may want to take a lane or two, right? Or one whole side of the street, so that we can provide more access to cyclists and to pedestrians during the pandemic.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
I don't think the county would be opposed to that, but the request for city streets has to come from the municipality, saying that, police and fire kind of sign off on this stuff. And I'm pretty sure, we know our downtown commanders and our Brickell commanders know what's happening where. And I think that might be a way to get the resolution that gets a little bit more analysis and then moves it forward. But, I'm happy to push with the county on this. But the concern is less about closing streets and more about making sure that our pedestrians have more of those streets.
That's right. That's right. And I'll be pushing in the city. And the thing is that I wanted to, I wanted to do it in a way that it will be, it would be accepted. You see, I don't want to give any reason for saying no.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Barnaby, Gino.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Now it's drafted as a resolution of the Board of Directors urging all respective governmental entities with responsibilities over any streets within the Miami DDA boundaries to consider temporary and or partial closures of streets to allow for increased pedestrian access and for potential use of budding businesses, including but not limited to restaurants, in order to assist with the economic recovery from COVID-19. Directing the Executive Director to submit proposals regarding any street closures consistent with this resolution to Miami-Dade County, the City of Miami, and the Florida Department of Transportation.
So
Okay.
Barnaby, can I suggest one change? Instead of just saying street closures, street and or lane closures? Because
It does say temporary or partial, but so it's meant to
okay,
cover
got
that.
it. All right, I
And
missed
the partial takes care of it.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
do I hear the, anybody's going to move it? I move it.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Okay.
Who was that?
Now discussions. Do we have any?
Let's do it
discussion?
quick.
Okay. No discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? No. Motion passes. Okay. Next,
So,
next item.
Just because of the time constraint, Chairman, I just want to move. I'm so sorry to Commissioner Suarez. If you can give us one moment to quickly go to our legislative items so we don't lose quorum.
Okay.
And then we can go to
Okay.
Commissioner Suarez.
It is important to have quorum for that, Commissioner Suarez, because we have to, I mean, he said requesting some funds too.
I have some board members that are saying they have to jump off, so I just wanted to
Okay,
mention
well,
that.
let's do it. Okay.
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
You guys can hear me?
No, Joseph, it's not your legislative item. I meant, sorry, the DDA actionable items that are on the agenda. So 3A, 3B, if we can go through the minutes and get an approval on the minutes, and then the resolution, that would be great, really quick.
Do I hear a motion on 3A?
Can we read the thing or what?
No, it said approval of minutes,
Minutes.
February 28,
Oh.
2020 board meeting.
Done.
I'm sorry, I thought you had a.
Second.
Nitin and Alicia. Okay.
Okay, all in favor? Say
Aye.
aye. Okay, 3B, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Downtown Development Authority of the City of Miami, Florida. And that was place ordered FIU South Beach and Hospitality Fund, approval of additional $25,000 from DDA. We took this, and we made this decision, and last when we had the executive meeting, in order to provide additional funds for the that assistant loan that for the small restaurants in an area that as Christina stated, we have received how much?
$168,000 to date.
And then that was an investment of $50,000. We are receiving right now.
No, 25 initially.
Well, 25,
Out of 25,
first.
yeah.
This is an additional
Additional.
25. And the first 25, we received 165,000, which is, I consider, is a great return on the investment. And now this additional 25,000, and we are, I think that we might match that or surpass the amount of loans that our small restaurants are going to. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
No discussions? Everybody in favor?
I have a simple question. I see, I'm reading, I guess, South Beach, WFF and FIU Chaplain Hospitality Relief Fund. What is exactly that?
Okay. Christina, explaining how they came into that partnership.
Sure. Initially, thank you, Alan. Initially, the first week, we assessed the needs of the businesses and the restaurants in the area. And Kevin and the team discovered that FIU did a partnership with the South Beach Food and Wine Festival, and they raised $1.4 million in grant monies for restaurants and bars. And so each restaurant and or bar is able to get $500 per employee up to $15,000. And so we initially went in at $25,000 as a partner, and out of those $25,000, we were able to yield close to $165,000 in grants for 68 restaurants and bars in the DDA district. And so the recommendation is to put another $25,000 in because they've been able to raise additional funds. And the idea is our money stays in the district, and then we're able to also generate more funds and help more businesses as a result of the investment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
The question was, I'm sorry, was that Suzanne Amaducci who made the motion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And who seconded?
Annette.
Okay. Now, no discussion. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No, motion passes. Now, before we lose quorum, let me, I will tell you that why Commissioner Javier Suarez has been waiting so patiently here. And yeah, Commissioner Suarez came to me and about a program. It's called Manos de la Calle. And he is offering out of, he already gave him a check of $10,000, and now he offering $25,000. And Mayor Suarez joined in, and he matched it with another $25,000. And he informed me that, or he asked me that through DDA, if we could contribute with another $25,000. And I said that I wouldn't do anything without the approval of the board. And that's why he is going to make a presentation. And after he makes the presentation, well, it's for us to decide if we are going to vote on providing the additional $25,000 for DDA and into this program, which I think is very effective from what I've seen. I know that before with DDA had a little, I would say that, I'm not going to say a problem, but it was a disagreement on street feeding. When they came to my office, I let them know that we are working, and we at DDA, we are totally opposed to street feeding, and that we are working on a program to try to centralize feeding, and we expect every one of those institutions that street feed the homeless, but abide by it, and they were in total agreement, and they were ready to work with us. Having said that, Mr. Suarez, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to say that you have understated your reference to the board.
Oh.
Hello, I can hear you.
Commissioner.
Commissioner, I can hear you. I lost the
audio.
Audio. Hello. What's going on with audio? Hello.
You should be on, Commissioner. Hello, hello? No.
Maybe because that screen is on there, that might.
We can hear you. We can hear you now.
Okay. Sometimes this equipment is not as good as we would like it to be, but I want to congratulate you because you seem to have done better than I have been able to do in the past in our virtual meetings. And I also want to say that you understated the importance and worthiness of your board. I consider them an assembly of demigods as I look at the names there. And I also note that they're interlocking with our board because of Commissioner Higgins. So that makes it two very important boards. We have here listening, we have 4 members of that organization, the nonprofit 501c3, Hermanos de la Calle, Roberto Ramirez, Narciso Munoz, Galena Lagranda, Margarita Lauria. We also have we recognize Dr. Henderson, who's on our screen. And he's kind of like the new Joe Greer, for those who remember the efforts and heroics of Joe Greer with the homeless. And then Keith Carswell from the mayor's office. What we have to present to you is a small ticket item to deal with a big ticket problem. We recognize, we all know the magnitude of the problem of the homeless. Had I been able to meet with Commissioner Higgins, I would have done that, but we have all kinds of sunshine law issues preventing us. But I have made a presentation to you, Mr. Chairman, and I think one of your board members is there, Harry Ressler. The ask is for $25,000, and it's being matched by $50,000 in 2 phases from my own budget. and the mayor of the city has put in 25,000. He doesn't know that he's actually going to have to put in another 25,000. You'll know soon enough. So we need to have a funding package of about $100,000, with which the Hermanos, they have a labor-intensive, volunteer-intensive organization that has 4 features to it, and then I'll defer, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, to the staff to go through the PowerPoint. It's a transition from the streets to permanent housing. Okay, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of nurturing, a lot of getting to know these folks, and it does not warehouse them. It makes sure that if they're going to be transferred to typically a house with, that's the second feature of it, 7 to 8 people, males with males, females with females, elderly separate. 1 case manager per house. That's the only ongoing expenditure other than rent. And it is a 501c3, audited. And again, as an economist, you know the importance of the multiplier effect.
That's right.
And I think one of your board members, I think Philippe mentioned, you know, how much we're going to need volunteers. These folks have 5 or 6 parishes, plus synagogues, plus foundations that work with them. And I would guess, from what I've seen, 400 or 500 volunteers altogether. Hopefully, if we move with this initial 100,000, if we move as many as 80 homeless into permanent residences, supervised and you know, with all their benefits, typically a lot of these folks, as you know, Mr. Chairman, don't, and board members don't know that they're entitled to benefits a lot of times. They can be self-supporting. And if you want to see one of these houses at work, we intend to have an inauguration of one of them. Actually, it's already in place, coming up in the next month. I just found out it's in Senator Soto's commission district, so he'll be obviously expected to do the ceremonial aspects of it. I did mention Keith Carswell, who's on the line, I hope, from the mayor's office. And I will defer, if it's okay, for 5 more minutes to Melissa Dinan, my chief of staff, if it's okay, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Chairman.
That's fine. Come on, Melissa.
Is that a Freudian slip? I don't know.
No. Melissa?
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to present this information to you. We understand that most of your board may not be familiar with this organization. And so this is just to provide.
There we go again. There we go again.
Melissa, your audio. Melissa?
Someone may want to let her know that.
Melissa?
Here.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're having
problems
over there.
That's right. Hello.
I can't hear you.
Hello?
Now, yes.
Yes.
I got muted again.
No. Hold on.
I don't know what happened.
You're on.
One
You're
moment.
on. We can hear you.
It's saying it's muted.
No, we can
Oh,
hear
can
you.
you hear me?
We can hear you.
Can you
That's
hear me
right.
now?
Yes.
The mic is moving. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. I guess now she cannot hear us.
Okay, you can hear me? Okay. Sorry about that. Great. So the organization, founded in 2015, began as a volunteer effort. They became incorporated in 2017 and then began doing housing as a focused effort. Next slide. Thank you. So this is just some of the highlights. They've been incorporated for a short period of time, and you can see they've provided housing for 110 individuals. Another key element is reuniting homeless individuals with their families. and they have reunited 60 of those. So in just a matter of a couple of years, they've housed almost 200 individuals. Next slide. And so this is just an overview of the process and what they do now as their organization has grown. They still continue with the outreach. During that process, they determine their needs assessment. And when folks are ready, they seek to rapidly house them. They follow a community model, and basically they have anywhere from 6 to 8 individuals living together in a sense form of a family unit and support one another in addition to the services they receive from a house manager. Next slide. As I mentioned, the case management, they assist with helping them find job through job search, if they have any medical or health issues, connecting them with those appointments, and helping them apply for government assistance where eligible. And those funds help in about three months. So the individuals are live at the homes for about 3 months, rent free. That's what this $10,000 that we gave previously goes towards. And after that, the individuals begin contributing $350 each to help cover the lease. In addition to case management, emotional support is key, and that's provided through not just the residents that live there, but volunteers assigned to them as well to help mentor. Next slide. So this is their current operation. They currently have 5 houses and 2 apartments. They charge $350, as I had mentioned before. The case managers and house managers are essential in assisting the individuals so that they can regain their self-identity and contribute to the environment and to the community. Next slide. And this is the final slide. These are the different type of scenarios they've come up with. For $100,000, they can rent 3 houses. There is a need to hire an additional case manager, basically to not overtax the current staff that they already have. So with that scenario, they would help 24 people get a home. The scenario B is to rent 5 houses and to be able to leverage dollars through the city of Miami and providing the case manager or house manager. And in that scenario, it would be about 40 homeless individuals that would be housed. And just a note that the house sharing is what makes this doable. And they also are able to support each other and ensure success. So that's the end of that. If anyone has any questions or.
Questions?
Thank you for this opportunity.
One question, which is, I think it's very important to me. If we contribute this amount, 25,000, and are you going to?
I can't hear. Oh, one moment, I can't hear.
Okay.
The volume. Here we go. One moment.
Hello.
I can't hear. Gavin, I need you again.
Hello.
I can't hear. Hold on.
Hello.
Yeah. No.
Hello.
No, it's not. It's over here.
You click there.
Hello.
Nope. To the right.
Miracles of.
To the right.
Hold on.
The X.
There's also someone on
that's
the line, Gerard's phone. I'm not sure who it is, but can you please mute
sorry.
your phone? I don't have a mute button for you for some reason. Gerard's phone. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I missed the question there.
No, and I haven't made it yet. You know the problem that we have in downtown Miami, and this contribution it's going to be used countywide, or are you going to place emphasis on in the homeless population that in downtown Miami?
This is downtown, and that's their focus, is downtown Miami. Yeah.
Okay, that's I want to make that clear. You see that this is a place emphasis on. Okay, board, you have heard about it. Do you have any questions, any comments? Yes, Barry.
So I did have the opportunity to meet with these guys and with Commissioner Suarez. I think it's important to note that this is a volunteer organization. It grew out of a church organization, and they are working outside of the county's continuum of care. They have essentially created their own system using best practices, social workers, and are out there on the street engaging with the homeless population and helping them either get home to where they need to be or finding a place to pick their life back up again. I personally was very impressed by the program, and I would support this wholeheartedly.
Would you make a motion for the assigning $25,000 to this or contributing?
Second.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussions? None. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Well, Commissioner, congratulations.
Thank you. God bless you all.
And thank you for bringing these people and keep up the good work. We're going to keep an eye on it and see how we can work. And also, I think,
Mr. Chairman, make clear that it's a DDA and City of Miami. It has nothing to do with my district.
No,
Commissioner Higgins obviously should be the lead person from the county.
That's right. It's DDA and the City of Miami, and from the county we have our vice chair, who I think that we have to get together and try to get more funds from the
with that winning smile. I think we will.
And I think that it has to be used more effectively. Me personally, at the beginning, and I'm going to be very honest, when I heard about them, I was a little bit, you know how it is. I was a little suspicious. I say, what the hell, you know, this is all. But after they made a presentation and they met at my office with Commissioner Suarez, Gary was there. I was impressed, and I think that it should be our goal. Our goal should be to get them out of the street and place them in an environment, place the homeless in an environment that can survive. And some of them could be reintegrated into society and leave the streets and live a normal life. And I think that's the goal. Those ones that they are rehabilitable, they have to be rehabilitated. And thank you for bringing it up. Do I have any other businesses? Do we?
Hi, thank you, Commissioner Suarez. We're happy to work with your office and the organization on moving that grant forward. So thank you. Yes, we have the state legislative update, which was in your package. I mean, in the interest of time, Joseph is on the phone if you want to go through it really quickly, and then that pretty much wraps up the agenda, other than the financial report that we need to give. So go ahead, Joseph.
All right, good morning. Everybody can hear me okay, right?
Yep.
Great. Good morning, Chairman, board members. For those of the executive committee, I'm sorry you have to hear my spiel again. I'm very happy to deliver some good news in the wake of this pandemic. In the interest of time, I'm going to be brief. I'm going to cover the success we've had on the budget and just some of the efforts since the pandemic, and maybe some insight onto some of the questions and discussions that's happened since the commencement of this meeting. You guys directed us as a board to coordinate with the City of Miami this year. It was a very fruitful endeavor. Nick Pasquale and I are in constant contact. Special thanks to Elena and Christina. As I mentioned last week, we had 3 visits from the DDA to Tallahassee. Elena in December, Christina and Elena during days. Commissioner Reyes, Chairman Reyes' Chief of Staff, Stephen Ferrero in the final days of session. That all helps us to be more effective advocates. We pursued at your direction a record of 7, I think somebody, they can mute their phone. We pursued at your direction a record of $7.9 million in funding, $400,000 for the Judge Leifman project that we go after every year, $4 million for the Miami Center for Mental Health and Recovery, which is going to be a game changer for this community, $2 million for the Biscayne Baywalk shovel-ready portions, and $1.5 million for the tidal valves. Obviously, we cast a wide net knowing we weren't going to get all of that. I'm very, very pleased to report that in our second year having the honor of representing you, we have again brought back a good amount of money. This year, $6.4 million was appropriated in the General Appropriations Act pursuant to the Miami DDA's direction and efforts. Obviously, we are in post-session pre-veto mode. The state's fiscal year does not begin until July 1. So because we had an earlier session this year, the governor has instructed the legislature to not send him a budget. If you've noticed, only a couple softball bills have been sent and signed into law, some healthcare bills, some tourism marketing bills, and stuff like that. We have been actively lobbying the governor's office since the introduction of these projects post-session, and we will make what we call just a bum rush when the budget is sent over. I will tell you, as I explained last week to the executive committee, the veto outlook is more bleak, obviously, in the wake of the pandemic. They appropriate about $200 to $300 million at the end of session. The pandemic has blown billions of dollars a hole into the state budget. The governor spoke to two scenarios. One is either a special session, which they are trying to avoid because the Constitution does not allow for a virtual meeting of the legislature. Also, at some point, folks are going to need a campaign. What is more likely is a heavier veto pen than he anticipated at the conclusion of session, putting more money in reserves and rolling the spending forward until the federal funds are drawn down. That being said, frankly, as we discussed last week, if any of our items are on the chopping block, it's going to be transportation and special projects. So I imagine Baywalk. We are actively, with the assistance of Speaker Oliva and Lieutenant Governor Nunez, advocating that the mental health funding does not fall subject to the veto pen. Some of the tail end of this pandemic that you will see is substance abuse, depression, domestic violence, unemployment, crime. We're going to have to deal with the tail end of sort of just the outfalls of this. So these funds for the Mental Health Recovery Center and the program are that much more important and critical, especially here being the epicenter. So we are all over that. That was our priority funding. Very happy to report that. As soon as the budget gets sent over, I will update Christina and Elena and Yvonne. In coordinated funding, also a very successful year. For the first time in 13 years, and we're not going to take full credit for this, it's a cachet of support, and frankly, Senate President Galvano was really the driving force. The full funding of the Sadowski's Trust Fund, $370 million in affordable housing, for the first time in 13 years was not rated. It is fully funded and going to affordable housing, with $30 million of that going to Hurricane Michael recovery. Again, that was important at the conclusion of session. It's even more important now. Affordable housing in the wake of record unemployment is much more paramount. Visit Florida, which again will be instrumental to the messaging that Florida is back open for business and visitors, was reauthorized until October 21st, 2023, and again appropriated $50 million. I always, Mr. Fritz, I always tell him, I know he's on the line, but we were directed to help with cultural and museum grant funding. Very happy to report $16.5 million in cultural grant funding. So from a funding standpoint, both our priority initiatives and then our coordinated efforts was incredibly successful. And that's not just us, that's the efforts of the DDA, you guys making visits. So really appreciate your assistance there. It allows us to be more successful in our job advocating for you. That's with regard to the budget. If anybody has specific questions on pieces of legislation or anything else, please feel free to reach out to me or through Elena or Christina. Real briefly before I stop, as quickly as I'm speaking, I want to just touch on some things that were spoken. Look, we do the majority of our work for you guys in a 3 to 4 month period, but we are here for you 12 months a year, and this pandemic is a perfect example. We're communicating with the governor's office every 24 to 36 hours. We've communicated on a variety of issues per my conversations with Director Crespi and Elena regarding DEM involvement, measures to help mitigate our homeless population, and stuff like that. I will tell you, Commissioner Higgins, you and I spoke last week. Secretary Satter has just announced that unemployment compensation will be retroactive to March 9th.
Amen.
Fantastic. Okay.
And again,
okay.
This
amen.
This was advocacy efforts. We were hammering on them. A lot of folks were.
Wrote a letter.
Yeah. So I mean, it's again, it takes a whole cachet of folks and a community, but that is absolutely huge, and it's frankly just the right thing to do. So that retroactivity will go to March 9th. Just a couple other things I wanted to touch on. We talked about travel from hotspots. The governor has worked within the parameters of what he can, right? He can't restrict interstate travel. That's a federal guideline. That's a federal jurisdiction. Emergency Order 20-82 directs all folks that come to the state of Florida from the tri-state area to self-quarantine for 14 days. State and local law enforcement is tasked with tracking and administering that sort of self-quarantine. And frankly, one of the efforts was to serve as the deterrent from folks coming. That's the same sort of deterrent that was found in closing down the Airbnbs. As I've told you guys and all my other local government clients, this is the first time that you guys have full autonomy to regulate Airbnbs. A violation of an executive order is a second-degree misdemeanor. You have the ability to put people in handcuffs that are violating that executive order. Your code enforcement officers and police officers also have the legal authority to request the lease to show that they're staying longer than 30 days. A lot of these visitors have been coached to say, I have a 2-month lease, I have a 45-day lease, to get over that 30-day threshold. You have the ability, because of the suspension of the preemption, to regulate them. This is sort of your time to knock heads. And the last thing I will touch on, guys, is the closure of the streets. Once that bubbles up, we are here to assist with FDOT. We follow your recommendation and your direction, but as somebody alluded to, when we approach the Florida Department of Transportation, it will be a higher likelihood we can get something done if we're going on 1 or 2 streets specifically. So whenever that direction sort of bubbles up through the county and we figure it out, let us know. Me and Jason Unger, who's on this account with me, will pursue conversations with FDOT.
Thank you, Jason.
And I'll stop there for any questions. I know I kind of went fast and furious.
No. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. What else do we have, Christina? We have
the financial report. Yvonne Barrios. Go ahead, Yvonne.
Miami DDA. In the package that De La Vega included in the email, you will find the March 31st, 2020 financial statements. In the highlights, we have total in bank $10.8 million. Our liabilities as of today is, well, March 31st is not $938,000. We have received $7.8 million of the property taxes, ad valorem taxes, and year-to-date expenses, we are in $3.7 million. No, yes. So there were no reporting issues. We are working line item budget in the hand with our executive director to keep the expenses controlled. Anyone has any questions?
None.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, also Gary had a question. Gary?
Gary?
Yeah, I'm wondering if we could quickly touch on the information kiosks that were passed at the City Commission yesterday. I don't believe that the DDA has heard any presentation from this kiosk company or seen what they look like, and I'm sure that the majority of them will end up on our sidewalks. Christina, have you been engaged in this process?
Well, when I first got here, I mean, when I was first elected, it was going on, and had been going on for 2 years, and 2 years and a half, and before that, I got and I thought, I mean, definitely, I thought since the commissioner, previous chairman was involved also in it, that you have a presentation with them. And if I will have got one. So I'm sorry, but I thought that you were informed of the project or the proposed kiosk. One thing that you have to be sure is that when they presented it, I had a couple of amendments to the ordinance, and one was that they cannot be clustered together. They have to be 300 feet apart, and also all of the permits have to go through. They have to require permits that will go through public works, and we have to take into consideration the opinion of of residents, for example, if that's going to be placed in front of one of those buildings that residents don't agree with it. And I think that they should take it to the commission, and I'm pretty sure that we will be in favor of the residents. It is a good source of revenue for the city of Miami, and it's also going to be a good source of revenue for DDA if it is going to come, because we're going to get 25% of all of the gross of the 40% that is going to be received by the city of gross revenue. We are going to receive 25%, and the aesthetic of the kiosk. I'm sorry that you didn't have a presentation. Honestly, I thought that you had been informed before. But the aesthetic, there's one on Giralda and Coral Gables. I know of that one because I go by that place once in a while, I love little restaurants that they had there. But there's one there that I checked it out, and it is not. I mean, it's not. They are not as bulky as some other that I have seen. They are a little bit narrower, and they look good. And they're going to provide also one thing that they're going to provide is direction, and then that is going to, in my opinion, that will be helpful to downtown visitors that want to go. If you want to go to any restaurants, you just press the buttons. I mean, you just ask for directions, and they will tell you where you are and where to go. You see,
I've seen great examples, and maybe can we get a presentation from them before second reading, perhaps, and that way maybe DDA.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask, and maybe when it's going to be our meeting. Next meeting is going to be next month. I don't know when the second reading is going to come.
We could do it at the May 1st. We could do it at the May 1st Urbanism Committee meeting.
This is the request for the kiosk?
Yes.
The kiosk ordinance has passed already. It has been adopted on second reading.
On second reading?
It has been adopted. The item that was on the agenda yesterday was for actual agreement with Ike.
Oh, yes.
That also has passed, so there will be nothing coming back to commission.
How long have that been going on? Have been going on for a while, Barnaby?
It's been, I think you're correct when you say 2 years, and maybe even longer.
Yeah, longer. I mean, that has been going for a long time.
We never heard anything about it here.
Okay, but one thing for sure, we control the sidewalks. Okay, we control the sidewalks, and I can tell you that we are going to. I mean, we can. I personally, I asked for that amendment, and I don't know if you remember, Barnaby, that they have to be spaced 300 feet. You see, so we're not going to cluster them or any other company, because this is not an exclusive to this company. Some other people could come and identify other areas, and then they could place their kiosk there, but they cannot be within 300 feet. You understand? There's not going to be that they're going to be clustered one on top of the other one, and that was something that I was very adamant about including that amendment, because I didn't want to see all our streets, with a kiosk after a kiosk, and that's it.
We can request a presentation.
I think that we should request a presentation, and we should let them know what our concerns are, or your concerns. Okay. And I'm sorry that have I known that nobody have informed you, I would have brought them at the same way that I brought Commissioner Suarez before you guys.
Mr. Chair, I have a comment from Michael Weisenfeld, and he says what would be great is to ask if the kiosk company to add a voice feature like Siri or Alexa, because a lot of people won't want to touch any of the screen surface in this post-COVID area. That's a great idea.
Great point. Why don't we do one thing? I'm going to ask them to come our next meeting and a presentation, and we can ask for everything that we want to include there. Okay?
Wonderful.
Okay, I will ask. And also
because I just to that point, and Gary, thank you. because it still has to go through the permitting process, so we can influence that way. So
Oh,
thank you,
hell, yes.
Commissioner Wares. Yeah.
Oh, yes, we control the permitting. Yes. And another thing that I want to inform you, remember the street lining program that we started? Well, I want to inform you that the city part, the public works, they just finished exchanging the bulbs from regular lighting into LEDs, and we're going to illuminate some more. But we still need more lighting, and those are the arms and the equipment that has to be in place for the power light. For power and light, it's not working now, but as soon as they start, they start the regular activities, I will be on top of them, so we complete that illumination project in our streets in downtown. But the city, I don't know if they finished already, or they are close to finishing our part of just exchanging the bulbs from regular lighting into LED, which has a more lumens and illumination increases. But we are working. We keep on what all the objectives that we had, and we are on top of it. It's a shame that this virus came, COVID-19 came by, because we would have been now quite ahead on what we were supposed to do. Yeah. Okay. Any questions? We don't have anything else?
No, I would just remind everybody the action plans are in the package if you want to see the progress of the committee initiatives that are still underway, like the pit stop expansion, the Bay Walk project, all the things that are still moving forward. Please just take a look at those. Thank
Alicia,
you.
now that I have you here, and I have a concern of, are you concerned about I would say office rentals or the office buildings? Because I don't know why I have the suspicion, and I foresee that many companies, they are going to maintain some of the staff working from home, and therefore the demand for office space could be diminished.
Commissioner, if I can make a comment on this, yesterday I read an interesting article about a company in New York that actually is taking more space, or someone told me that, I don't know, actually is taking more space to allow social distancing.
Okay.
So you're hearing both ways. You're hearing yes, a lot of people will stay at home, or turning them, for example, one employee goes from 9 to 12, another one goes to the same place from 12 to, so they're rotating so
yes,
we are getting conflicting messages.
Yes, but that is while this emergency is in place and social distances. But I really hope that this social distances, I mean, we have to do away with it, because, man, I miss embracing people, touching my friend. I mean, give them a hug, you see, because, I mean, that's the way that our culture is. But I think that what you're referring is at this moment, at the present.
Yes.
What I'm referring is in the long run. In the long run.
I don't know if Danette's on the call still, because she's obviously the expert on this, on our board. But from my perspective, I think that Miami's growth, I think, is really going to catapult. I think we were on an upward trajectory, and this is going to speed us up. So we really didn't have an overabundance of office space to begin with. Mm-hmm. I think that in markets where they have, you know, huge office space like in Manhattan or places like that, there could be issues. But in Miami, I think we have to prepare ourselves, brace ourselves for exponential growth. And I think it's going to come faster than we were expecting. So, so I'm very bullish. I really am. And I think that we have to plan for that. We just can't plan for no one's coming, blah, 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 because I think we may be pleasantly surprised, and we have to anticipate how we're going to deal with that and really come up with a formula to be ahead of it. And again, the David Gutter concert was a brilliant example of how you can party like there's party like Miami and continue to do that with social distancing. It really set a beautiful standard.
Can't we do that every Friday?
Exactly.
In Miami, every Friday, happy hour, outdoor happy hour.
I had speakers in my backyard. It was
Well,
great.
tune into our Instagram account today, Richard, at 6 o'clock. You can watch a live virtual happy hour DJ.
Well, let me, and I'm proposing that after this pandemic goes away and social distance goes away, then what we do, we take over the streets and we party on the streets.
Get some good, can we get some good artists we all like? Get somebody like Billy Joel or something. What could that be? 100 grand?
Yeah, I would add one other thing on the future demand of office space. I think working from home has been good for some people, but for a lot of people, it doesn't work at all. And when you're, it depends on your circumstances, what kind of resources in your family situation, how many dogs you have. At the beginning, it's kind of cute when you're on with your coworkers and their kids are kind of bumbling around and crying in the background. By the second or third time, people find it as an impediment to being able to work. And I think with a lot of changes that are necessary and will be implemented, I think people will very much embrace coming back to work in a different way. But the working from home, I think, is, we're only about 5 weeks into this. And I think for many people, it's already getting quite tiresome. For some people, it's fine if you're introverted or if you've got a job, you're a developer, you're doing something that doesn't really require as much interaction with other people. But I do think there are limits, and I see that coming back strong once we get out of this phase.
Point well taken. And the statistics says that domestic violence has increased, divorces have increased, you see, and also suicides. I mean, and yes, I agree with you. After a while, you're working at home, you want to go to the office. Okay, anything else? Well, let me tell you, it's so nice to see you healthy. Stay safe. Take good care of yourself, and you're very important. And not only to your family and to everybody else. And God bless you all. And this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Goodbye. Be safe.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
If anybody wants to stay on, I'm going to try to share those 2 videos again and see if we can get some audio. So you're welcome to stay if you'd like. Wait. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
No, it was that. Thank you, everybody. Mission accomplished.